Hi, this is Pat Love from Love Healing Hearts, back with a special conversation. I want you to hear why people turn to God and why they turn from what we have grown up in. Gloria, thank you so much for being part of this program. I really appreciate it. This is my friend Gloria. Gloria, introduce yourself.
Gloria Wade and Pat and I have been friends for years. We go way back. So we have definitely have a sweet relationship.
Yes, yes. I mean, we have been friends. I have done her hair. We have prayed together. We have glorified God together. We have shared our horror stories together. And what I'm going to ask Gloria now, and I want you guys to hear this, because a lot of you guys think that, the church thing is a big hoax. It's a big game. It's a big sham. I want you to hear the real deal from some real people. And I know Gloria's real. Okay? So I'm going to ask Gloria to share why she chose to walk with God. She didn't always do so, and neither did I. Gloria, why did you choose to walk with God? What was the big deal for you?
Well, one of the things that really made me choose to walk with God, first of all, I came to church in a blanket. So I was brought up and taught about God and how wonderful He was, and that uh, He could always bring you through it. You could always lean and depend on Him, and that you needed to be saved. And that was one thing that was always taught to me. And I was unsaved, although I had gone to church all those years. And I went through a period where I didn't even go to church for about 10 years. And the thing that really drew me to God, to have a relationship with Him, was my divorce. I had gone through my first marriage was a very bad marriage. And there were some things that went on there, and I had prayed, and even though I wasn't saved, I knew to pray. And I asked God to help get me out of that situation.
Gotcha.
And I was able to get out of that situation. And I made a promise to God. I said, God, if I can get out of this situation, I said, I will serve you. I will, that relationship I'm supposed to have with you, I will turn to you. I will lean on and depend on you. And I will never leave you because I know you will never leave me. I will never leave you.
Wow.
And that's the thing. We are the ones that leave God. And I told him I would never leave him.
Mm-hmm.
And God opened up that door for me, and I was able to leave. And I was with the type of person that just to go to church would have been a challenge.
Mm.
You're going to church because, those deacons are hitting on you down there and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I would go to church, I had to hear a lot of flack. So when I did get out of that situation, like I said, I turned to Christ, and I have been there ever since, and that has been since 1972.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Now, what makes you stay with him? I mean, I'm playing the devil's advocate. What's the big deal? I mean, all you guys do is go to church, put money in the bucket, sing a few songs, clap, and then the guy flaps his jibs at the pulpit and psychs you guys out, right? That's what some people believe. And what do you believe? I mean, what is it to you?
Well, it's the Word, because God is His Word, and the Word is God. So when I started studying the Word, even though my dad and my mom always opened the Bible, and we had kind of like little Bible studies at home.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would go on for a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. Even though I was taught that, you have to learn the Word for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You have to infuse the Word in your spirit. And going to church, and it's just not going to church and, like you said, clapping and putting money in the basket and getting up. But it was going to Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
It was going to seminars. It was going to conferences. It was sitting there on Sunday mornings and really listening to that word, letting that word penetrate my spirit. And then that word got down in my spirit. The word says to hide the word in your heart so that you might not sin against God.
Right.
And I began to do that. I began to really get in that word, really study that word, really understand that word. that made me know that I needed to have a relationship. I wanted to have a relationship with God. And that's the main point. You have to study the Word. You have to study it for yourself. It's more than just going to church. It's more than just sitting there for that hour and a half or 2 hours, an hour, and just go, and then you don't come back until a week later. It's when you get home. You got to get in the Word at home. You can't let dust grow on your Bible.
Right.
You have to get home and get in that Word for yourself.
Why?
Because, like I said before, that's what makes you stronger.
In what way? I mean, in what way, Gloria? I'm picking at you because I know that you have the answers, but I'm picking at you for the sake of those that doubt. Why?
Yeah,
what is it doing? All you're doing is reading words. You can read any novel that can inspire you. What's so big about the Bible?
Because it convicts you.
In what way?
It actually convicts you. It tells you. And there's another thing about the Bible that I love. God says, if you do this, I'll do this.
Hello.
And I love that about His Word. You know, if you give your heart to me, if you get saved, then you will spend eternity with me.
But what about the here and now?
Predicated on something. The Word is predicated on something.
I understand that. I understand the conditional. What about the here and now? What about people who don't believe in heaven? Okay, forget heaven. Forget hell right now. What about right now? What does God do to help you navigate through this thing we call life? How does the Word help you there?
Because when you're reading that Word, a lot of times you see yourself.
Right.
When you're reading that Word, you say, wow, that's me. Sometimes God will give you a word for the situation that you're going through. Right then and there, right now. Okay, I'm going through this divorce right now. Or I'm going through this trying time where I don't have any money and I can't pay my rent. Or I need a car badly and I just don't have it because my finances are really messed up to that degree. God will give you that word right there. He says, if you bring that 10% into the storehouse, into my storehouse, prove me now and see if I won't pour you out a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive. That's the here and the right now. I've done that many, many times when I said, looked at my budget and I said, you know what, I don't have this 10%. And then I was convicted by the Word and what it said. And I went ahead and I gave that 10%. And God would just open up a door for me almost immediately. So that's the here and the right now.
Okay. Now let me ask you a question about your church. Now, you know how a lot of people, all they see is the pastor passing the bucket and give till it hurts, blah, 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 blah. But share with me, if you don't mind, because I know this story. I know a few of them. Share with me the few times that you remember, or the many times. Share one or two of them where God spoke to the pastor and the bucket wasn't passed around for the collection plate to go to the church, but he felt led to do something really different. Share that.
Oh, there's been more than one time where my pastor, and I'm not going to just go and call out his name. I would prefer not to.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
Church. But there have been many, many, many times, and I say many times because I said it's been more than one or two times, when he's been led. I remember distinctively one Sunday he said, there is a person in here that is a mother. She's a single mother. And you don't know how you're going to pay your rent. And he said, I want you to come up here right now. And it took her a while to come up there. But she finally did come up. And when she came up, tears were streaming down her face. Just streaming down her face. And he said, oh, it's you. And she said, yeah. So what he did was he said, he told the ushers, I want you to bring 2 baskets up here. And they brought the 2 baskets up there. He says, I want you, the congregation, he said, come, and I want you to just put in this basket as if you were putting it in there for yourself or for one of your loved ones. And they did that. They brought that money up there, and I mean, the baskets were actually full. They were just beginning to fill up. And when he gave that money to that woman, she just fell to her knees, just sobbing. And there was another time, I remember that very distinctively, when he was led by the Holy Spirit. He said, bring 2 baskets up. And when he brought the 2 baskets up, he said to I'm getting feedback.
Okay, just talk a little lower. That's probably all it is. Just move the mouthpiece of the phone a little bit further from your mouth.
Okay. So he told him, he said, to bring the baskets up. And they brought the baskets up. And he says, I just want you to come and put some money in this basket. He said, we're going to bless some people today. So they did. They put the baskets, they brought them up there, and we started just putting the money in there and putting the money in there. And he says, now, those that need this money, because you know what you have coming up this week, and you don't have the money, come and take what you need out of this basket.
Mm,
And people came out, and they just up and just took money out of that basket, what they needed. And I mean, it was such a blessing. It was such a tremendous blessing.
mm.
I've seen him do that more than, like I said, those 2 times. But those 2 times really stick out in my mind.
Isn't that beautiful? See, people
That's,
think that, you know, when you guys look at us and you see us being faithful going to church, it's not just about going to church, but the body needs to feed off of each other. Okay. Now, when you have need in the body, there are times those needs don't get met because you're not in the body. Somebody can walk up to you and say, you know, God told me to give you this. And it could be exactly the amount you need to pay your light bill. It could be the exact amount you need to buy your baby's diapers. Whatever the case may be, it could be what you need, or just to put gas in your car so you can make it through the week back and forth to work. Listen, you guys, God is so aware of our needs, and we have to stay connected. That's why we can't be an amputee arm. We can't be an amputee leg and decide because Sister Blobo and Brother Appleseed hurt my feelings and offended me. I don't have time for the church anymore, because that is a pimple in life. It's not worth you cutting yourself off from the body. When you cut an arm from the body, it dies. It's no longer good for anything. And that's what happens to you spiritually. You can't cut away from the body and think you can live solo. Nobody's that good, even you. Okay? So you have to remember, we need the body. We all need each other. We help each other. We correct each other. We love each other. We fuss at each other. But it's all in love. Now, yes, all of us are a work in progress, and there are some people that are very difficult to love and even more difficult to forgive. But guess what? God enables us to. When you don't have the ability, you can look to God and say, Lord, would you please help me forgive Brother Bread and Butter, because he really gets on my last nerve. So know that God is a part of your personal life. One last question, Gloria. I really appreciate you sharing this with us. Would you tell me what pain you have experienced in your life? You don't have to tell us your personal business, but what kind of pain have you experienced emotionally, mentally, spiritually? What type of anguish have you had to suffer through, where God actually stepped in and supernaturally healed you from it?
Now, when you say that, you're talking about a personal pain that I felt.
Right. You don't have to tell us what the situation was, but just something, some way that you got hurt, or maybe you grew up with an insecurity, or somebody offended you. You never thought you'd get over it, and then one day you realize God had helped you forgive. Boom, just like that. Whatever the case is, or a fear that maybe God had delivered you from, or a bad habit. Anything that you can share that God has delivered you from or healed you from.
Well, one thing, there's a family member that I have that I always wanted to have a relationship with, and was never able to have that kind of relationship that I really wanted with that family member. And I went all of these years, even when we were kids and we grew up together. And then, you know, when I would go home, when I go back east, and I would hook up with this family member, it was always like I had just seen them yesterday. And maybe I hadn't seen them for 4 or 5 years because I hadn't been back there for that long. I went back in July, and I saw this recently, just July 2015, saw this person, and God revealed to me that this is all you're going to get from this person. You're not going to get any. because that's all they know how to give.
There you go.
And one of the things is because they don't really love themselves.
Look at
And he
that.
had to reveal that to me. And in that time, I said to my husband, I said, you know what? This is all I'm going to get from this person. And I'm satisfied with that.
Look at that.
So I spent 2 hours with that person. As a matter of fact, I was there for 2 weeks. They waited till the day before I was going to get back on the plane to come home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the time when they decided they wanted to open up some time to come and spend with me.
Mm.
And I was a little bit upset about that and hurt about that until I spent those 2 hours with that person. And God revealed to me. And we had a good time in those 2 hours.
Beautiful.
And God revealed to me, this is all you're going to get. So you got to love them from here. Or should I say from there. You know, and God just healed me of that hurt, and I'm satisfied.
That is beautiful. You know, I'm going to let you go in a minute, but I remember one time when I really needed healing from feeling like my mother didn't want me. This is real brief because I've told this story a million times. And the Lord healed me in one dream from a lifelong feeling of rejection. Now, the root of rejection, that's a whole nother story. God delivered me in my living room. But this was the hurt from it. And what he did was he gave me a dream that I asked my mother, like I used to do, for a hug. And her normal response when I was a kid would be, make it quick, Patty, you know you give me the creeps. Well, yeah, I grew up with that a lot. But see, my mother had a nervous breakdown. So she was already a broken vessel, you hear me? Okay. Now, what God did was in this dream, and my mother had been dead for like 3 or 4 years. So the people don't have to be alive for you to reconcile. Not
that's
with God. Isn't that something? We were standing in the room and I said, Mama, can I have a hug? And instead of her clenching her arms down to her side, waiting for it to be over, she wrapped her arms around me reciprocally. I guess that's the way you say it. And it was a mutual hug. And she held me like she wanted to for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And I felt her hug. I felt the warmth. I felt the softness. I felt my mother in my arms. And I felt her arms around me for the first time with such affection. And I'm telling you, it was like a dam broke in me. You know, when you stick a balloon filled with water, that's the way I felt, the way the water gushes out. I just began bawling. And I said, oh, Mama, this is all I ever wanted from you. And I'm telling you, Gloria, that was a healing I will never forget.
Yeah, that was healing.
Yes. And those are the things God does in our lives that makes us fall in love with him over and over and over again. Because those are things no psychiatrist, no pill, no sex, no man or woman, nothing can do that. No alcohol, no drug, nothing can do that. That's a supernatural act of healing.
His word does not return void.
That's right.
He promises those things in his word. He's got to fulfill them.
Right.
And
right.
He has to. Yeah.
Gloria, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
God bless you, babe.
God bless you too. And I love you, my sister.
I love you too, sweetheart.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Now do you see why? Do you understand why God is so necessary in our lives? You think about those stories. You think about those testimonies. And you give it a plunge. You take that plunge. You jump. Take the leap, baby. God will catch you with all his love. God bless you.